Hello and welcome to this transmitter programming tutorial for the E-flite F-14 Tomcat twin 40mm. Today I'll be programming this DX6E transmitter, but this programming is applicable for all DX-G2 radios. Let's start by selecting a new model. Click the scroll wheel and scroll all the way down to System Setup. And click. This will give us a warning screen letting us know that by proceeding into this menu, our RF deck will be turned off, meaning no signal will be sent out from our transmitter. Now scroll down to Model Select and click, and scroll down to Add New Model, and click, Create. Now we'll name the model by going down to Model Name, and I'll start with the first character. I'll name it F-14 Tomcat. Now that the model is named, I'll push the back button. And now I'll scroll down to F-mode setup and click. Scroll down to where it says Flight Mode Switch Inhibit and click. And scroll to the right, select the D switch. Now that we have our flight mode switch set on the D switch, push the back button. And now scroll down to Trim Setup and click. We need to change aileron and elevator from common to F mode. So we'll scroll down to the common next to aileron, click, and there it's set to F mode. Now we'll do the same thing for the elevator. Once we have those set to F mode, we can leave them at 5 and push the back button. Now let's set up our dual rates and exponential. Push the back button, take us back to the home screen, and now click the scroll wheel to go to the function list. Now scroll down to DR and Expo and click. And we can see the manual recommends we use 2 different switches for our dual rates, one for aileron and one for elevator. We'll start with the aileron since that's what's already selected for us. We'll scroll down to Switch On to choose a switch. The manual recommends switch F for the aileron dual rates. The 0 position will be the high rates, and we'll leave that at 100%. However, we need to add an expo of 10%. So click on the 0% and scroll to the right until we get to 10% expo and click to lock it in. Now we'll flip the F switch down to the 1 position for our aileron low rates. And we'll click on the 100s and drop those down to our low rate value of 70%. And we'll add an expo of 5% to our low rates. Now we can verify that's working as it should. 100% high rates with 10% expo, 70% low rates with 5% expo. Now we'll do the same for our elevator channel. Scroll up to where it says Channel Aileron and click, and scroll to the right to Elevator and click. Now scroll down to Switch and click, and scroll to the right to set it to Switch C. With the C switch in the 0 position, that will be our high rates. Again, we'll leave that at 100% and add 10% expo. Now we can flip the C switch down to the 1 position, the low rate position, and bring those 100s down to 70. And the expo up to 5. And we can verify that's working. And now we'll push the back button to go back to the function list and scroll down to Throttle Cut and click. Click on Inhibit and scroll to the right to select a switch. The H switch is most commonly used for the throttle cut switch, and that's the switch I'll be using. We can see that just by selecting the switch, the throttle cut position is set to negative 100%. That is just what we want. So long as the throttle cut is on, the throttle channel is locked in at negative 100%. This is very important for safety to help prevent an accidental throttle up. Now we can push the back button twice to go back to the home screen. And there we have it. Our DX6E is now programmed and ready to fly the E-flite F-14 Tomcat. Thank you so much for joining me in this tutorial. Hello and welcome to this transmitter programming tutorial for the E-flite F-14 Tomcat Twin 40mm. Today I'll be programming this NX6 transmitter, but these programming instructions are applicable for all Spektrum NX radios. We'll get started by selecting a brand new model. We'll click the scroll wheel and scroll down to System Setup. Click. This gives us a warning screen letting us know that by proceeding into the next menu, we'll turn off our RF deck, meaning there'll be no signal being sent out from our transmitter. Click Yes, and now we'll scroll down to Model Select and click. Scroll down to Add New Model and click, and scroll down to Create. Now we can name the model. Scroll down to Model Name and click. And we'll start with the first character. I'll go ahead and name it F-14 Tomcat. And once you've got the model named, push the back button twice to take us back to the System Setup menu. Now scroll down to F-Mode Setup and click, and scroll down to Switch 1 Inhibit and click. Scroll to the right and select the D switch. Now the D switch will act as our flight mode switch. Now push the back button and now scroll down to Trim Setup and click. We need to change aileron and elevator from common to F mode. So click on the common next to elevator and it will change it to F mode. Do the same to elevator, click, and once we have those set, push the back button twice to take us back to the main menu. And now click the scroll wheel and let's set up our dual rates and exponential. Click on DR and Expo, and now scroll down to Switch Inhibit. Click, scroll to the right. The manual suggests the F switch for our aileron dual rates. So click on the F switch. The 0 position will be our high rates, so we'll leave those at 100%, but we need to add a 10% expo. So click on the 0% next to expo and scroll to the right to bring it up to 10, and click to lock it in. Now flip the F switch down to the 1 position for our low rates, and we'll move that 100% down to 70. Click to lock it in, and then we'll add a 5% to the expo. We'll flip the switch to verify it's working, our high and low rates, and they are. Now let's do the same for the elevator channel. We'll scroll up to aileron and click, and scroll over to elevator and click. Now scroll down to switch on, and per the manual, we'll set the elevator dual rate switch to the C switch. The C switch in the 0 position will be our high rates, so we'll leave that at 100% and add 10% expo. Switch down to the 1 position for low rates and adjust those 100s down to 70. Click to lock it in and add a 5% expo. And verify that they're working. Now we can push the back button and scroll down 1 to throttle cut and click. Scroll down to inhibit and click. And scroll to the right to select a switch to act as our throttle cut switch. The H switch is most commonly used for throttle cut, and that's the switch I'll be using. We can see that just by selecting the switch, it automatically sets the position to negative 100%. That is just what we want. When the throttle cut is on, the throttle channel is now locked in at negative 100%. This is very important when out at the flying field for safety to help prevent an accidental throttle up. Now we'll push the back button twice to go back to the home screen. And now our NX6 is programmed and ready to fly the E-flite F-14 Tomcat. Thank you so much for joining me in this tutorial. Hello and welcome to this transmitter programming tutorial for the E-flite F-14 Tomcat Twin 40mm. Today I'll be programming with this IX-14 transmitter, but this programming is applicable for all Spektrum IX radios. Let's get started by selecting a new model. Click the little orange marker there at the top left-hand side of the screen, and then click Proceed. Now click the 3 dots at the top right-hand side of the screen, and select Add New Model. Default, Airplane, Create. Now we'll scroll down to the bottom of this list to find the model we just made, Acro, click, and now we can name the model. I'll delete the Acro that's in there, and I'll name this one F-14 Tomcat. Once you've got it locked in, push the back button, and one more time to take us back to the home screen. Now let's set up the F mode switch. Click Model Setup, and then click Flight Mode Setup. Proceed. Click where it says Inhibit next to switch 1, and set the switch to the D switch. Push the back button, and now click on Trim Setup. Click on Aileron where it says Common and change it to F mode, and click on the Common next to Elevator and change that to F mode. Now we can push the back button twice to take us back to the home screen. And now click on Model Adjust. Dual Rates and Expo. And here we can set up our dual rates and exponential. Per the manual, for the aileron channel, we'll use the F switch for our dual rates. With the F switch in the 0 position, that'll be our high rate position. Let's click on where it says On to select an F switch. And with the F switch in the 0 position, we'll leave the dual rates at 100% for our high rates, but we need to add an expo of 10%. Click on Expo and bump those up to 10%. Now flip the F switch down to the 1 position for low rates, and click on the 100s and bring them down to 70% for our low rate. And Expo, we'll bring that up to 5%. Now we can see when we flip the F switch to the 0 position, we have our high rates, and the 1 position is our low rates. Now let's do the same for the elevator channel. Click where it says Aileron and select Elevator. Now we'll select a switch, click where it says On next to Switch, and select the C switch. With the C switch in the 0 position, that's our high rates. We'll leave that at 100%, but click on Expo to bring that up to 10%. Now flip the C switch down to the 1 position, click on the 100s, and scroll them down to 70%. and then a 5% expo. We can verify those are working as they should. And now we have our dual rates and expo set up. Push the back button and then click on throttle cut. Click on inhibit to select a throttle cut switch. The H switch is most commonly used for throttle cut. That's the switch I'll be using. And select the H switch. And we can see just by selecting the switch, it automatically sets the position to negative 100%, exactly where we want it. When our throttle cut is on, our throttle channel is locked in at negative 100%. This is very important when out at the flying field for safety to help prevent the chance of an accidental throttle up. I'll push the back button twice to take us back to the main menu. And now our F-14 is programmed and ready to fly the E-flite F-14 Tomcat. Thank you so much for joining me in this tutorial.